Access Sportsnet Lakers, driven by your Southern California Honda dealers. I'm Chris McGee, joined by Big Game James Worthy. I got Robert Ory, and we got Mike Bresnahan here. We got Mike Trudell handling the post-game locker room. Lakers lose a close one in Atlanta, fellas, scoring 101 points through three quarters. The Lakers with their best offense of the year, possibly 71% at halftime, 61% after three. But in the fourth quarter, shot only 32%, scored 20 points, and the Hawks caught fire.
Yeah, the Hawks did catch fire down the stretch. They got a lot of, alley-oops and in the paint points. They kept putting AD in that pick and roll, and when he switched, he was on the perimeter a lot, and that's when they were able to get inside. But I think when the Lakers look back at this game, and then they had 28 assists, Skeeter, shot the ball very well, but I'm sure Rob is going to point this out as well. 12 of 23 from the free throw line, and that's where it could or could not have been won if they just have capitalized on that. But the fourth quarter stagnation, and I think too, like, you really got to be good with your decision making down the stretch when you need a good shot.
Yeah. And
so, yeah, it was a little disappointing that they allowed Atlanta to come back in that game and they weren't able to finish it off. But nevertheless, there were some good moments, especially for Monk. And they showed some signs that they scratched and played hard, but come up a little bit short on the road.
It's pretty much the tale of two halves. If you look at the way the Lakers played in the first half, good ball movement, shot a high percentage. In the second half, it was like, okay, I need to get mine. We're going to win this game because we did so well in the first half. The ball wasn't moving as much for me in the second half as it did in the first half. And then in that fourth quarter, it's almost like everybody's like, okay, who's going to score? What are we going to do? They got outscored by 18 points in that fourth quarter.
38 to 20.
It was so bad. But the thing is also, Trae Young got hot down the stretch.
Yeah.
He started knocking down his threes. They couldn't stop the pick and roll. It was things that in the fourth quarter, as a team that wants to try to get a championship, you got to be able to lock down teams and figure things out in the fourth quarter. They wasn't able to figure out the pick and roll, double O. He had like 16 points, all dunks, 8 dunks. That should never happen by one guy. 8 dunks in the game. Trae Young get the ball out of his hands when they tried. When they did that in the first half, Trae had like 3 or 4 turnovers. So, continued doing that to get it out of his hands, and that's how they got the lead. But unfortunately, they came up short on this.
Yeah, the fourth quarter kind of looked like a team in its 6th and final game of a 2-week trip almost. When you get outscored that badly in the final 12, it's disappointing for the Lakers. There's no doubt about it. Malik Monk, great effort, wasted 33 points. I mean, he was amazing tonight. Cannot fault him at all. Westbrook was fine. AD was fine, but no one else really stopped anybody. There was no defensive pressure in that all-important fourth quarter. Lakers 2-4 on this trip. There's really no way to say it was a successful trip. They could have almost beat Charlotte a couple days ago. They could have beaten Atlanta tonight, but they didn't, so they come back 3 games under 500.
Let's talk about that Hawks big fourth quarter. That was the difference. They scored 38 points. Trae Young was magnificent catching fire. He scored 13 in that fourth. He ended up with 36 guys, 12 of 22, and 12 assists. And how about Onyeka Okongwu? Yes, remember that name. He was a freshman on that Chino Hills team with the Ball brothers. He scored 12 in the fourth, 8 of 9 for 16 points, Rob.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. He just played simple basketball. We talk about pick and roll. This is what this guy did. He just set a pick and he rolled, and they found him. You watch how the Lakers set and pick and roll. They pick and stand. Like, what are you going to do? Instead of being definitive on what they're going to do. And that's what you have to do when guys know their limitation. Double O, because I can't say his name, call him Double O.
Double O.
He is saying, okay, I'm going to roll. Yep. And he's rolled every time, and they found him. It wasn't just Trae finding him. It was Lou. It was a bunch of guys because, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, James, Clint Capella, very good center, good defensively, had a really good first half. Didn't get off the bench in the fourth quarter. Why? Because this kid was killing the Lakers. He just was. Dunk after dunk after dunk. Atlanta got a little lucky. I mean, Trae Young, he's hitting those toilet bowl threes from 30 feet, just like he did with inside a minute left. It's just your night. But again, the defense really failed the Lakers. Not the first time we've said that on this road trip.
Yeah, 62 points in the paint for Atlanta. A lot of them came from, what's the name, Peter?
Okongwu. Onyeka Okongwu.
Onyeka.
Played a year at SC also.
62 points in the paint. Purely energy, especially what Rob just said. He doesn't try to play outside of his box. He knows what he needs to do. He sets picks. He rolls to the basket. I'm not popping. I'm going to the basket, and I rebound. I get off this rebound. That's all he does. and that's where his energy is, put at every game. So he's able to capitalize on it if you don't defend him.
Maybe a little foreshadowing by our pregame producer, Holland Gibbons. She had us do a whole segment on the Lakers struggling, Brez, and you talked about it, points in the paint. And the last time they played the Hawks, and this was the problem tonight.
They haven't won this battle in more than 2 weeks. It's always the other team drills them in the paint. It was close in one of the road games. In fact, they tied Brooklyn points in the paint. That's where they're losing the battle. Penetration, and of course, big men, like we saw tonight. Tons of alley-oops, like you pointed out, James. It's tough to win when you give up so much in the paint, game in and game out.
And by the way, that's the risk you run, and I know Frank and the staff knows it. Everybody in the league knows it because everyone does it when you go small.
Yeah, when you go small, most of those smalls are going to stay outside and shoot Jays because they have some opportunities to drive, but they're not driving because their bigs are not picking and rolling. Because if you look at what the Hawks did, they're bigs and they roll. And they had opportunity to keep going or throw it over the top. And our bigs are staying, so it's not allowing our guards to go to the basket to get points in the paint, because points in the paint is not about just bigs. That counts for layups by the guards, by the fourth, whoever it is in the paint. So if you look at the way we played tonight, it was just Russ was the only guy that was really getting to the rack because AD wasn't rolling, Johnson wasn't rolling, so our bigs are pretty much popping tonight.
I do want to talk Lakers then. They finished 2-4 on the road trip, but I want you to think back to after that Brooklyn game when you have your team whole, at least for a moment, and you start to think, okay, they can finish 2-1 on the rest of this trip. That's a winning trip. You come home, we're starting to get healthy, and then LeBron misses 3 games, James, and we've wasted some great games by a couple of guys individually. Russ, Monk, AD, when you think of the Philly loss, the Charlotte loss, and again today. Now you're finishing 2-4 on the road trip. You're now 3 games under 500. It's just crazy how it shifts, big game.
Just can't get it right.
Yeah.
And, I just can't get it right having guys healthy. And it really does affect your overall record, especially in a situation like this where you have so much disbobulation of players out. Again, 25, 26 different starting lineups. You can't build synergy. Guys don't know each other's tendencies. So it's just so frustrating. We're a week ago, we thought we were like, okay, we're about to get everybody back, including none coming, and some players. We're going to finally get a little bit of practice time in maybe, and we're going to have that run that we need, only to be, disrupted again by injuries.
So let me ask you guys this. Do you have confidence, even though the big three have not played more than, 16 times together this season, and they're 9-7, but they were 1-0 on this road trip and looked pretty good together. Do you have confidence seeing some individual performances that when they do get right, they could be okay?
Yes. I mean, again, going back to that Philly game, AD, he outplayed Embiid. I was going to say he basically tied him, but he outplayed him. It wasn't a draw. When you see stuff like that, you think this team can beat good teams. Here's the problem, though. Right now, the Lakers, if they stay around 500, right now they're 3 under, like you said. That's a play-in team. You're not going to get a top 6 spot. What does that mean? Who are you going to get in the first round? Phoenix or Golden State? Who do you not want to get in the first round? Phoenix or Golden State? So unless the Lakers really push, finish 5th or 6th, they're looking at a play-in with 29 games left, guys.
Listen, I at this point, guys, I think the only thing you can hope for is to be healthy and take your shot, because right now you're 9th. And you're about 5-6 games in the loss column behind Denver and Dallas. So at this point, thinking about going, we got to go 23-9 down the stretch. I think that's a lot, right, Brez? You and I were looking at the schedule. It's just about getting right.
Yeah, and I misspoke. There's 31 games left.
Yeah, and Rob, you've done it. So that's the only thing you can do.
It's all about getting right. It's about coming together, trying to get some synergy, trying to learn each other's tendencies, and playing well, because there's so many teams that go into the playoff that have been playing well all year, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we get some injuries here, we haven't figured it out. But think about it, the Lakers really hadn't had but maybe 2 good games all season, and they haven't been healthy all season. So there's still an opportunity for them to get together, have some good practice days, have some good games together, and say, okay, what is our identity? This is what we're going to do. LeBron, you're going to do this. AD, you're going to do this. Russ, you're going to do this. And once we get a true identity and everybody says, okay, this is my game plan, they can go on a roll. But right now, they still, I know it's weird to say, don't have an identity because they haven't been together yet.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. All right, listen, let's get you to the highlights. Lakers